Well, it's Thursday, March 5th, 2026. I'm Brittany Noble. Here's what's coming up today on The Breakdown. Two Smoothie shop employees fired after refusing to serve a customer wearing a Donald Trump sweatshirt. And the viral video now sparking a nationwide debate. In today's digital world, one misstep or delayed response can damage years of trust. We're talking about how Black entrepreneurs can protect their brand and their reputation before a crisis hits. And empowering the next generation, how one organization is helping Black and brown girls build confidence, embrace their worth, and step into their God-given potential. The breakdown starts now. Well, the North Las Vegas City Council approved a $1.2 million settlement for a deaf Black woman who sued the city and its police department following a 2021 traffic stop. Andrea Dre Hollingsworth was pulled over with her twin daughters in the back seat in April of 2021. The officer, Michael Rose, handcuffed her for allegedly not following orders, even though she could not hear them. Body camera footage shows Hollingsworth repeatedly trying to explain that she could not hear, pointing to her ears. She says Rose refused to let her communicate through writing or sign language. He then ignored her and her children, pulling her out of the car and eventually forcing her to the ground, pressing a knee into her back while handcuffing her. The lawsuit claims Rose violated Hollingsworth's Fourth Amendment right and 14th, the Americans with Disabilities Act. The suit detailed how the officer's refusal to accommodate her deafness caused physical and emotional harm while traumatizing her kids. She was released with no charges. Well, two Ann Arbor Smoothie King employees are out of a job after they refused to service a man and his wife because the husband was wearing a Donald Trump sweatshirt. Cell phone video captured the incident, showing a tense exchange between the couple, identified as Erica and Jake Lindemeyer, and the staff members, which quickly spread across social media this week. Just take a look.
Right, which is discrimination.
Yeah, we're at Smoothie King, and they're discriminating and saying we cannot get service because Jake has a Trump service on.
Okay, well,
So
you said you were going to leave, so please just have a great day and leave so we can continue what we're doing. Thank you.
we were just wanting a smoothie, and you literally looked at us, and I asked you if everything was okay. You said we don't feel comfortable serving you because of my husband's hoodie.
Yes.
That is discrimination.
Okay, well, have a great day.
That is illegal.
So
That's illegal.
I said Trump discriminates us.
That has nothing to do with us wanting a smoothie.
Okay, but that's who you support. That's who you love, though.
You
So
don't,
go
but
ahead, have a
you
great day.
you don't own this. You don't own Smoothie King.
You're gonna no longer have your job.
Literally. Like, I'm confused.
Hey.
Is this a joke?
Good luck maintaining your employment.
I don't care. Have a great day.
When
Get
your
out.
company is charged, yeah, you will.
So literally, Jake's wearing his hoodie. They would not serve us because Jake's wearing a Trump hoodie. Talking about discrimination?
Are you not embarrassed? That's embarrassing.
It is embarrassing.
For you.
No, what's embarrassing is that we're American citizens and I wanted to get a smoothie.
Because my manager was here, she said the same thing to you. That's why I'm saying what I'm saying to you, okay?
But that's hey, you know that's a crime, right?
It's not though.
Discrimination
We
is a
have the
crime.
right to refuse service here, and that's what we
Not
did.
due to political views, though. Not due to
You
political
asked her what was
views.
wrong, and she said that she was
It's okay.
uncomfortable,
It's a
right or
crime.
wrong?
It's all right.
You asked the question, and she answered. Have a great day.
That's a
Have a
crime.
great day.
You know that's
The
a
door
crime.
is right there. Have a great
How
day.
embarrassing.
Have a great day.
Well, Smoothie King, a Texas-based company, cut ties following the incident and posted on X following an investigation into the incident. The franchise owner has taken immediate action, and the two employees involved are no longer with the business. Well, the House is set to vote on a measure today to block President Trump from taking further military action against Iran without congressional support. It comes a day after a similar effort fell short in the Senate. The war powers vote comes amid concerns that the U.S. could be engaged in another lengthy war in the Middle East. And as a CBS News poll shows, the majority of Americans disapprove of U.S. military actions against Iran. Also, 2/3 say the administration should obtain approval from Congress for further military action. In a defeat for President Donald Trump's administration, a federal judge in New York ruled Wednesday that companies that pay tariffs are due refunds. You may remember the Supreme Court struck down Trump's tariffs last month. Judge Richard Eaton of the U.S. Court of International Trade wrote that all importers of record were entitled to benefit from the Supreme Court ruling that struck down sweeping double-digit import taxes President Trump imposed last year under the 1977 International Emergency Economic Powers. The higher court found those tariffs to be unconstitutional under the Emergency Powers Law. The federal government collected more than $130 billion in the now defunct tariffs through mid-December. Now, they could be on the hook for refunds worth $175 billion. The Republican-led House Oversight Committee voted Wednesday to subpoena Attorney General Pam Bondi for testimony on the department's handling of records related to Jeffrey Epstein. The motion passed by a vote 24-19. 5 Republicans voted for it, including Nancy Mace of South Carolina, who put the motion forward. The department acknowledged that tens of thousands of Epstein files are offline as it deals with redaction and privacy issues that it hopes to have addressed by the end of the week. Bondi claims that the DOJ has released all of the Epstein files. However, Mace says they have not. The subpoena is for closed-door testimony with video that will be released to the public afterwards, but there is no date set for the testimony just yet. A group of 10 Chicagoans say they are stranded in Dubai after thousands of flights were canceled due to Iran retaliating against the U.S.-Israeli attacks. The group said they went there to celebrate a birthday, but on the last day, they scrambled to book extra nights at a hotel. They hunkered down after they heard and saw missiles right outside. Back here in the United States, Howard University is changing its game day protocol, now requiring student athletes to either stand for the national anthem or remain in the locker room. Now, this move comes after members of the women's basketball team knelt during pre-game ceremonies before a game against the United States Military Academy in December. Athletic leaders say the policy follows internal conversations about balancing student expression with respect for others. Howard women's basketball players have knelt during the anthem since 2020 as part of a protest against social injustice. And Howard University's College of Medicine has been placed on probationary accreditation status by the Liaison Committee on Medical Education. It's the first time in the school's 158-year history. The LCME's public directory now lists the medical school as full on probation, meaning the program remains fully accredited, but must address specific compliance concerns identified during the review process. University officials say the designation does not affect students' degrees or the school's ability to train and graduate future physicians. Howard says it's already begun addressing the issues by expanding faculty hiring, updating portions of the curriculum, and making targeted faculty improvements. The LCME directory also shows Howard University's College of Medicine's next full accreditation review is scheduled for the 2027-2028 cycle. Well, at least 14 cases of measles have now been confirmed at Camp East Montana in El Paso, Texas, the nation's largest ICE detention facility. That facility, located on the Fort Bliss Army Base, holds an average of nearly 3,000 detainees inside a tent-style structure. Officials say people who tested positive for the highly contagious disease have been separated from others in an effort to prevent further spread. Congresswoman Veronica Escobar says the outbreak has forced the facility to close to visitors and attorneys, and now she's calling for the detention center to be shut down and for an investigation into the contractor that's operating the facility. Well, the nonprofit organization Balm and Gilead will host the National Week of Prayer for the Healing of AIDS. The group works to create, uplift, and empower faith communities. It's calling on congregations across the country to observe the initiative of confronting HIV and AIDS, which disproportionately impacts African Americans due to the erasure of funds by the federal government. In 2023, Black Americans accounted for 39% of all people living with HIV and 38% of new HIV diagnosis in the United States. Black men and Black women had the highest rate of new HIV diagnosis among all races or ethnicities. Young Black people between the ages of 13 and 24 accounted for almost half of all new HIV diagnoses in that group. The prayer week started March 1st. It will continue until March 8th. Well, coming up after the break, in today's digital world, a company's reputation can change in hours. One misstep or delayed response can damage years of trust. Today, we're discussing why crisis planning is essential for Black-owned businesses and the steps entrepreneurs could take now to protect their brand. Stay with us. And remember, for more news headlines and in-depth coverage 24 hours a day, visit the Black Star Network. We are your source for stories that matter to our community. We'll be right back. You're watching The Breakdown with Brittany Noble on the Black Star Network.
With medicine and science under attack, I want to keep you and your family informed and healthy. I'm Dr. Ebony Hilton, and I knew at the age of 8 that I wanted to be a doctor. So I studied hard and became the first African-American female anesthesiologist hired at the Medical University of South Carolina since its opening in 1824. And I always say I was made into a doctor, but I was born to be a mom. And as a new mom, wife, sister, daughter, and friend, I understand how frightening a medical crisis can be. I care for individuals on some of the worst days of their lives, and it's my mission to provide you with a safe space to gain clarity on issues affecting your mind, body, and soul. I recognize that there are health disparities, particularly as it pertains to race, and I want to help bridge the gap between you and your healthcare providers. Join me every Thursday for Second Opinion on the Black Star Network, where each week I'll invite experts from various medical fields to share the latest health news. We'll discuss topics such as the vaccine debate, mental and sexual health, medical bias, infertility, menopause, andropause, nutrition, and aging. Together with my medical colleagues, we aim to provide you with a second opinion. Don't miss it, Thursdays only on the Black Star Network.
If in this country right now, you have people get up in the morning and the only thing they can think about is how many people they can hurt, and they got the power, that's the time for mourning.
For better or worse, what makes America special, it's that legal system that's supposed to protect minorities from the tyranny of the majority.
We are at a point of a moral emergency. We must raise a voice of outrage. We must raise a voice of compassion. And we must raise a voice of unity.
We are not in a crisis of party versus party. We are in a crisis of civilization, a human rights crisis, and a crisis of democracy itself. And guess what? You've been chosen to make sure that those that would destroy, those that would hate, don't have the final say, and they don't ultimately win.
I'm Risa Colbert, and you're watching the Black Star Network.
Well, today we're talking about something many businesses don't think about until it's too late: crisis planning. In today's fast-moving digital environment, a company's reputation can change in a matter of hours. One misstep, one delayed response, or even silence can damage years of hard work and trust. For many Black-owned businesses and organizations, the stakes can be even higher. These businesses often serve as economic anchors in our communities, and when crisis hits, whether it's a public relations issue, social media backlash, or an unexpected business disruption, being unprepared can have lasting consequences. So that is why we are welcoming our guest today, Lamar Holliday. He is the founder of the Holiday Collaborative Agency. Hi, Lamar. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure, Brittany. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Tell us a little bit more about the Holiday Collaborative Agency and what you do there.
Yeah, so as the founder and CEO of the Holiday Collaborative Agency, we are a full-service public relation, marketing, and communication firm. We like to tell people that our goal is to help people to move people, policy, and purpose through public relations and marketing. And one of those things that we do help organizations and government agencies with is that crisis communications.
Now, how long have you had your small business?
Yeah, so we are celebrating 5 years actually on Monday. So we are excited to be around for that long, and thankful to our clients who trust us to help them guide them through these different things that are happening every day.
Absolutely. Congratulations. Tell us, why is crisis planning especially important for small Black-owned businesses operating with limited resources?
Yeah, it is very crucial for Black-owned businesses to have a crisis plan in place. If you think about 15, 20 years ago, if a crisis happened, you had time to plan. That's because a lot of times crisis made the 5 or 6 o'clock news. Today, that is not the case. And as you mentioned, social media is a big thing today. And so all it takes is one crisis, one situation, and once it's on social media, it can damage reputations, years of reputations and brands. And so what we try to do is help Black businesses be prepared for that. Literally, it can take a matter of days to come up with a plan, but it can save years of reputation.
Now, Lamar, I know you just wrote an article about this in Forbes. Tell us a little bit about it. Like, what are some realistic scenarios small Black-owned businesses should be planning for today?
Yeah, so I placed this article in Forbes to really encourage businesses to really look at their crisis plan. And if they don't have one, that is a crisis within itself. And within that plan, you come up with different scenarios of that could happen that many businesses face. Some of those situations may include a data breach. It could also include a post that's damaging your reputation. There are so many different things that could happen to a business. And so when you have that plan in place, it allows you to activate quickly. It allows you to make sure that you're interjecting the facts, right, in that situation. And so making sure that, number one, you have that plan in place is very important. Secondly, you want to make sure that you establish a team, and that team are the people that are activated within those 24 hours to make sure that you're responding to those facts and situations. After that, you want to think through those scenario planning. So back to your question, what are some scenarios that we can plan for? And different businesses have different scenarios that they face. And so when you have those different scenario plannings, you develop a holding statement. So if something does happen, like if an employee goes rogue, or if there's, again, a data breach, there are certain holding statements that you can develop to put out to the media that lets them know that you're aware of it, you're going to respond to it, and you're going to make sure that the facts in the situation are broadcast, if you will, to those who will be impacted by that.
Now, another point you make is deciding ahead of time who will speak publicly during a crisis. How should they approach choosing and preparing a person to be their spokesperson?
Exactly. That is so crucial, Brittany. And I want to make sure that small businesses understand this. Sometimes it's not the CEO, and that's okay. Making sure that you have the right messenger is so important. That messenger is the person that's going to be, for the most part, going before the public, taking questions from maybe reporters if there are reporters involved. Sometimes they may be responding to social media inquiries about the crisis. That person is going to be very crucial because they are the ones that are going to make sure that your reputation is intact. And like I said, sometimes that's not the CEO, but as you develop that plan, as we talked about, you will determine who those spokespeople are. And one thing that we do tell our clients is if you do have a team, or maybe it's one person that is that spokesperson, there's always spokesperson training. So if someone needs some training on how to answer these type of questions, how to make sure that we're keeping our reputation intact if we're faced with this, there is training available to make sure that spokesperson is ready when that time arrives.
All right, Lamar, do you do any of that training yourself? How can people connect with you and your agency?
Absolutely. We do provide that training as well. Spending about 6.5 years as a TV reporter, I have that background, I have that knowledge of what those reporters are looking for. And so if you're looking for spokesperson training or need any assistance with helping to develop a crisis plan, you can follow us on our social medias at Holiday Collaborative Agency, or you can visit our website at holidaycollab.com. And that's 2 L's in holiday, HOLLIDAYCOLLAB.com. And we have all the information that you need there to make a decision on working with us.
All right, Lamar Holiday, founder of the Holiday Collaborative Agency in Indianapolis. Thank you for joining us today on The Breakdown and sharing your insights that can help Black-owned businesses protect their brands and their reputations and our community. Thank you.
My pleasure.
All right, coming up on The Breakdown, have you come across a news story that deserves national attention? We certainly want to hear from you. Don't forget, please scan that QR code. It's on your screen right now. This is a great way to connect with us if you have not connected with me on social media already. My name is The Noble Journalist online. We will be right back here on The Breakdown. Stay with us.
With medicine and science under attack, I want to keep you and your family informed and healthy. I'm Dr. Ebony Hilton, and I knew at the age of 8 that I wanted to be a doctor. So I studied hard and became the first African-American female anesthesiologist hired at the Medical University of South Carolina since its opening in 1824. And I always say I was made into a doctor, but I was born to be a mom. And as a new mom, wife, sister, daughter, and friend, I understand how frightening a medical crisis can be. I care for individuals on some of the worst days of their lives, and it's my mission to provide you with a safe space to gain clarity on issues affecting your mind, body, and soul. I recognize that there are health disparities, particularly as it pertains to race, and I want to help bridge the gap between you and your healthcare providers. Join me every Thursday for Second Opinion on the Black Star Network, where each week I'll invite experts from various medical fields to share the latest health news. We'll discuss topics such as the vaccine debate, mental and sexual health, medical bias, infertility, menopause, andropause, nutrition, and aging. Together with my medical colleagues, we aim to provide you with a second opinion. Don't miss it, Thursdays only on the Black Star Network.
Hey y'all, welcome to The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network and hosted by myself, Bree Baker, and my good sis, Jamira Burley. We are just two millennial women tackling everything at the intersection of politics, gender, and pop culture.
And we don't just settle for commentary. This is about solution-driven dialogue to get us to the world as it could be and not just as it is.
Watch us on the Black Star Network, so tune in to The Other Side of Change.
Today, for our Missing in Black segment, family and friends need your help finding Shaughnessy Queen Stokes. She went missing October 18, 2022 in Greenville, South Carolina. Stokes was last seen on 4th Avenue in Poe Mill at 12:45 a.m. She was reportedly seen leaving on foot wearing an all-black outfit, including fur coat and boots. She suffers from mental health disorders. If you have any information, please contact the Greenville County Sheriff's Office. The number is 864-271-5210. Well, in case you missed it on Roland Martin Unfiltered, Roland discusses Tennessee lawmakers proposing a bill to honor Charlie Kirk. However, Democrat Representative Justin Jones shares his views on why this measure is problematic.
Nothing like rabid Republican idiots in Tennessee. Monday, during a hearing on the House Naming and Designating Committee, this actually happened. They were talking about an honor for Charlie Kirk, literally a proposal to designate a day in honor of Charlie Kirk, you know, the racist leader of Turning Point USA who was shot and killed in Utah. Well, Republican Gino Bulso, who was supporting the bill, engaged in a heated debate with Democrats Vincent Dixie and Justin Jones. They argued that passing this bill would be an absolute embarrassment to Tennessee. Watch this.
This is a bill that would designate September 10 on our state calendar as Charlie Kirk Day. As all of you know, Charlie Kirk was tragically assassinated on September 10 of last year, 2025, doing what he became so famous for doing, which was engaging young people on college campuses in civil discourse about issues of politics and current affairs. He's someone who I think is a luminary, not just for young folks, but for all of us in public life. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I stand ready for questions.
Members, are there any further questions for the sponsor? Mr. Dixie.
Thank you. I feel that this is an opportunity for us to get this right and maybe have a conversation. This person was not a luminary. He was very divisive. And he was, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure he said that if he saw a black pilot on a plane, he would wonder if they were qualified. And I don't understand why we would be honoring a person that thought a segment of people were beneath him or not as equal. And, you know, we in this body, we get so upset when we call people white nationalists or racist, but we honor racist people and we do racist things. So I would suggest that we take this bill off notice, and I would like to motion that we send this bill to the table.
So we have a motion and a second, but we also have an objection. So we will vote on the motion. A vote of aye will be to send the bill to the table. A vote of nay will be to continue with the bill here today. Clerk, would you bring up the vote? Clerk, would you read the vote?
Mr. Chair, you have 3 ayes and 6 nays.
Motion fails. Representative Dixie, do you have something else?
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate your leniency on this as well.
Yes.
This is something that I can't understand why we're even contemplating this. This guy did nothing special. He was very divisive. He was a racist, and we're going to sit here and we're going to take our time to honor a racist in the state of Tennessee. We just had someone die that was a very powerful person in the state of Tennessee, in not the state of Tennessee, but in this country, Reverend Jesse Jackson. I haven't seen anybody from the other side express any remorse or condolences to the family, but we're getting here to recognize a known racist. And you should be ashamed for bringing this bill. And I would hope that you would stop and you would take this off notice immediately. This is embarrassing. And I'm also, it's almost unfathomable that plenty of the bills that we have talked about here do nothing to help people's lives, do nothing to put more food on the table, do nothing to help the unhoused, do nothing to help people get health care. But we're putting these bills here to create a divisive culture, which we should be coming together. There was nothing about this man that brought people together. And we're going to sit here and you bring a lot of bills that are controversial that I think that you should probably think about what is the purpose of us being here? It's to make Tennessee a better place. How does honoring a racist make Tennessee a better place?
Thank you, Mr. Dixie, and I'll give Mr. Bulso an opportunity to reply.
Thank you, Chairman Fritz, and thank you, Representative Dixie, for your comments. I mean, I'll simply point out that I think Charlie Kirk is someone who is the opposite of what I would consider to be a divisive figure, because he was someone who encouraged robust civil debate among those who had contrary opinions. And I certainly would disagree with the characterization of Charlie Kirk as a racist, because one thing that you always saw with Charlie Kirk, especially when he was engaged with young people in debates, is to avoid personalities, to avoid personal attacks, to avoid ad hominem attacks, not to debate personalities, but rather to debate ideas. And he was obviously someone who, I think politically speaking, was on the conservative side of the ledger, and he was very powerful in articulating and defending and supporting conservative values and ideas. But that, to me, is the kind of example we'd want to hold up to our young people. A young man who gave his life for his country and who didn't back down from any type of debate, but was able to do it in a constructive, civil manner, which is, I think, an example to all of us.
Thank you, Chairman Bulso. Representative Jones, you're next.
Thank you, Representative Fritz. Honestly, just deeply disturbed by this resolution. If I read it correctly, it says that whereas God did send Charlie, who became the preeminent voice of a generation, inspiring millions of young Americans to engage in civic discourse and reclaim the foundational values of faith, liberty, limited government, and individual responsibility. And I have this because I'm trying to figure out where in this bill it makes sense. It takes a certain amount of theological gymnastics to claim that this man was a representation of Christian faith. And if you don't mind, Representative Bulls, I'm going to read a few statements. And if you could just say yes or no if you believe this represents the Christian faith and something that we should commend as a state. This is from Charlie Kirk. Kirk claimed that passing the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was a huge mistake and that has now become an anti-white weapon. Do you believe that this represents our faith or something we should commend in the state of Tennessee?
Chairman Bulso, would you like to respond?
Thank you, Chairman Fritz. I'll wait till the representative finishes his litany of questions, and I'll respond to them all at the same time.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. I'll continue. On January 3rd, 2024, in an episode of his show, Charlie Kirk continued his incessant verbal assaults on women of color, saying, quote, "If I'm dealing with somebody in customer service who's a moronic Black woman, I wonder is she there because of her excellence or is she there because of affirmative action?" Do you believe that's a representation of our faith? During an April 5th, 2023 appearance at the Salt Lake City campus of Awakened Church, Charlie Kirk said, quote, "It's worth it to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights. That is the prudent deal." Do you believe that is the representation of a faith that teaches us, blessed are the peacemakers, for they should be called the children of God? I'll continue. Charlie Kirk decried what he described as the myth of Martin Luther King Jr., calling him an, quote, awful and, quote, not a good person. Another time declaring him a, quote, serial adulterer, an alleged rapist, a reparations proponent, and a race Marxist. Do you believe that's a representation of our faith and something we should commend in the state of Tennessee? Finally, in a 2024 episode of his show, Kirk quoted a Leviticus passage calling for gay people to be stoned to death, referring to it as God's perfect law, and called for a Nuremberg-style trial for every gender-affirming clinic doctor. Do you believe that's a representation of Christian faith in which Jesus said, "You who are without sin cast the first stone"? Do you believe that's a representation of something we should commend in the state? I think what we're doing here is theological malpractice. It's immoral, and it's a disgrace at the highest level of our state government. It is unfortunate that Charlie Kirk was killed. I'm someone who will continue to advocate against gun violence against all people. But what we cannot do is try and make him into some type of Christian martyr when his life went counter to everything that our faith and our state should stand for. He is one of the most despicable humans to grace this nation. And of all the people we can commend with a day in Tennessee, he
Representative Jones, if I could please, much leeway, because I believe in civil debate here. But let's cut short on demeaning. There are family members perhaps that listen to this, so exercise some Christian compassion, please. Get your point across without being so detrimental toward a deceased person, I would ask.
I hear you, Mr. Chair, and I just ask that we have that same type of standard for Charlie Kirk, who, when after a school shooting happened, he said, well, that's the cost of the Second Amendment, who denigrated a dead man named Martin Luther King Jr. and called him a serial adulterer and attacked him, even though he was someone who was dead. If we're going to set that standard for members of this committee and saying that we have to honor Charlie Kirk, let's set the same standard for the way that he lived his life, which was denigrating people and beating down on people and not representing our faith.
And of course, the committee passed it, and it's going to move on. It's such a joke, Rebecca, how these white nationalists want to turn Charlie Kirk into this martyr. And, oh, he engaged in civil debate with college students. I mean, cut the crap.
He was a 30-something-year-old man arguing with 18 and 19-year-old kids. That takes a lot of guts. That's a profile in courage. I mean, they might want to tap in Candace Owens. She's right up the street in Nashville and see what she thinks about this. She would probably ask that committee if they would do an investigation on who killed Charlie Kirk. At least that's been, her focus over the last few months with her and the Scooby-Doo mystery machine that she's been working on. So, I appreciate Representative Justin Jones because I thought he had very thoughtful questions. I understand the passion of Representative Dixie. But when you are going back and forth with people who support white supremacists, white Christian nationalism, just saying, oh, this is bad, this is a racist, they don't care. That's the point. They know they're racist. They just don't want you to call it out and say that they're racist. At some point, the only way for Tennessee to change, especially in Tennessee's legislative house, the only way for it to change is voters in Tennessee have to, they're going to have to register people to vote. They're going to actually have to do turnout. And I know there's a lot of barriers in Tennessee that makes it harder for especially Black Americans in Tennessee to actually be able to vote. But it's ridiculous, the dribble and garbage that we've been seeing in that legislature. They just do a bunch of nonsensical stuff. And then to even fake Christian sympathy or Christian grace and say, oh, don't speak ill of the dead. Are you serious? And then my final thing is, what connection does Charlie have to the state of Tennessee? He wasn't born there. He didn't live there. So why is it Tennessee's business on whether or not there's a Charlie Kirk Day there?
Well, coming up tonight on Roland Martin Unfiltered, Roland Martin is live from Chicago tonight ahead of the homegoing celebration for Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. Please be sure to watch the Black Star Network for full coverage of the Jesse Jackson Sr. funeral. Well, coming up here on The Breakdown, an organization is aiming to build young Black girls up through a program working to instill confidence, identity, and self-love. The group's organizers tell us what they're doing to empower them. After the break, stay with us. And remember, your support is critical to the work we do here at the Black Star Network. You can support us via Cash App using the Stripe code. There it is in the bottom left-hand corner. Also, help us out with credit cards. Please use the same thing. PayPal's are Martin Unfiltered. Venmo's RM Unfiltered. Zelle at RolandSMartin.com. Rolling at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. If you're old school, you can use checks or money orders, all payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered. P.O. Box 57196 in Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Know that our goal is to raise $1 million by December 31st, and so we certainly appreciate your support. We'll see you on the other side of the break. You're watching The Breakdown.
They said the quiet part out loud. Black votes are a threat, so they erased them. After the Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act in 2013, Republican legislatures moved fast. New voter ID laws, polling place shutdowns, purges of Black voters from the rolls. Trump's Justice Department didn't stop it, they joined in. In 2018, his DOJ backed Ohio's voter purge system, a scheme that disproportionately erased Black voters. Their goal, erase Black votes and political power. Yeah, that happened. These are the kinds of stories that we cover every day on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Subscribe on YouTube and download the Black Star Network app. Support fact-based independent journalism that centers African Americans and the issues that matter to our community.
If in this country right now, you have people get up in the morning and the only thing they can think about is how many people they can hurt, and they got the power. That's the time for mourning.
For better or worse, what makes America special, it's that legal system that's supposed to protect minorities from the tyranny of the majority.
We are at a point of a moral emergency. We must raise a voice of outrage. We must raise a voice of compassion. And we must raise a voice of unity.
We are not in a crisis of party versus party. We are in a crisis of civilization, a human rights crisis, and a crisis of democracy itself. And guess what? You've been chosen to make sure that those that would destroy, those that would hate, don't have the final say, and they don't ultimately win.
What's happening? This is your man, Motown recording artist Kim. You are watching the Black Star Network.
Well, there's an organization on a mission to uplift and empower Black and Brown girls. I Am More Foundation is committed to inspiring young girls and women to embrace their worth, grow in confidence, and realize their God-given potential no matter their circumstances. Here to talk about the group is the founder and executive director, Talicia Stein, and the co-director, Yasmin Carruthers. Ladies, welcome to The Breakdown.
Hello, how are you?
Oh, I am doing well. Hello. Thanks for being here. Talicia, we'll begin with you. What inspired you to begin this organization?
Oh man, it is from being introduced to so many women. I am blessed enough to always have like this personality. I meet so many different people, and I just feel like it was so many young women I was meeting that, didn't have that village. And, I always talk about like things that my mom taught me and things. And I just met women that just didn't have that guidance or didn't have that person to confide in. And I just feel like we were missing that village. And I thought, I'm like, I can't go to sleep worrying about something and not have want to change it or want to be part of the change. So I said, you know what? I think it's time. So Yasmin came to me about some things and we made it happen, and we were just talking about it. And she had experiences too with these things. And she was an angel to me that I met her. I'm from Michigan originally. So when I met her, she just been such an angel and always had those things to help me with, or that advice. And I just feel like everybody should have that. And I feel like this is just be a great foundation to start to give those girls that opportunity.
That's amazing that you guys were able to collaborate for this foundation. Yasmin, tell us about some of the programs that you have for young girls that helps execute your mission.
Yes. So what our typical program looks like, we host sessions 2 Tuesdays out of the month. And then on the 4th Saturday of every month, we host a workshop or field trip that goes along with that month's focus. So every month we have a different focus. The last 2 months, for instance, have been building confidence identity. This month of March, we're expanding possibilities. So with the sessions, it's basically us kind of having those conversations, allowing the girls to share, us learning them, as well as making sure that we tie in those important nuggets and plant those seeds for them to have the confidence to live outside of our sessions. And then we have at that 4th Saturday, we'll tie it all in together with we had, for instance, for building confidence identity, we just had a photo shoot for the girls to wrap it up. We also had a beauty builders workshop. And moving into March, expanding possibilities, we'll be going on a field trip to a farm so the girls can do some different things with petting animals and horseback riding. So those are a few little things that we like to do with the girls in our program. So any opportunity we have to just give them opportunities that they might not have experienced on their own, that's what we're all about doing.
And Talicia, you work with girls from 7 to 22 years old. Tell us about the difference that you've noticed when working with some of these young girls.
The main thing I feel like I've noticed is the confidence. And that's why we wanted to have the confidence segment 2 months, because I feel like a lot of young women and young girls are missing that. So I do the 7 to 12 conversation. Our girls right there. I'm so proud. And Yasmin do the older girls 13 to 22. And it's just, just making it simple enough that the younger ones can understand, but then taking it to the next step for those older ones and just setting that example. So I just feel like I'm seeing so many more heads held high. I'm seeing more confidence, that bonding, and I can just tell and see that village. It's amazing, from the laughs to the love when girls are expressing and they're having those emotional barriers of maybe they didn't get to express that before to someone, and they have those emotional moments, and it's just us being there for them. And that's the most amazing part, of just seeing them open up and just seeing them just be them. And it's amazing to watch.
Yasmin, tell us what's next on the horizon for the I Am More Foundation.
We have dreams of hopefully being a household name. We would love to go into the schools, to be able to have this as an option for an after-school program. The sky is the limit. Wherever God takes us, we don't want to have any type of boundaries. But we have in the works currently, we are trying to partner to expand to Cincinnati, Ohio.
Nice.
So we're just going to try to take it as far as we can go that God takes us.
All right. Talicia, how can people get connected, support you, be a part of your program?
Yes, we have a website, which is iammore.org. And also we have Instagram, which is iammore_ foundation. On all platforms you'll be able to find us. Also on our website you'll be able to donate off of Zephy if you would like, or we do accept other forms of payment, but definitely we have a registration form on there and everything. You could go on there, just look on all the different categories we have, and we have our schedule and our calendar as well that they can check out. But please go on there, register. It's free, so please, we can't wait to invite you to our village.
Well, Talicia and Yasmin from the I Am More Foundation, thank you so much for joining us on The Breakdown today.
Thank you. We're so happy that you have us. I'm
Thank
so
you for
excited.
having us.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure.
Thank you.
All right, coming up next on The Breakdown, do you have an idea to do some tech-savvy stuff like create an app, but you don't have the experience? Don't worry. Our next guest says you don't need the tech skills. She breaks it down for us next on The Breakdown. And if you know someone in our community who deserves the Noble Spotlight, please let us know your noble thoughts. Again, there's that QR code that's on the screen right now. That is the best way that you can connect with us. Let us know what's happening in your neighborhood, your story ideas, anything that you would like us to talk about, maybe for a potential segment. Scan that QR code. Let us know this show is for you. We'll be right back. You're watching The Breakdown.
Hey y'all, welcome to The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network and hosted by myself, Rhea Baker, and my good sis, Jamira Burley. We are just two millennial women tackling everything at the intersection of politics, gender, and pop culture.
And we don't just settle for commentary. This is about solution-driven dialogue to get us to the world as it could be and not just as it is.
Watch us on the Black Star Network, so tune in to The Other Side of Change.
Violent white supremacy is, quote, the most persistent and lethal threat in the homeland.
The greatest terrorist threat to the homeland is the homegrown violence stream, including hate crime committed on behalf of some kind of white supremacist ideology.
They are coming after everything in Black America. MAGA and Donald Trump are specifically targeting Black America. They are going after the money. Attack Black Lives Matter. Attack critical race theory, attack woke, DEI. MAGA wants to defund Black America. This is a perfect example of their desire to completely degrade and de-emphasize Black people.
am Swain Cash, Basketball Hall of Famer, and you're watching Black Star Network.
Well, for our culture segment, we've all been in that season of having an overflow of ideas, but maybe not the experiences or the skills or even the tools to bring it all together. Well, app educator, innovator, and now author Amanda Spann wrote a book, I Have an App Idea, the essential guide to building an app without tech skills. It's the ultimate resource for aspiring app entrepreneurs without a technical background. She joins us today to talk all about it. Amanda, welcome to The Breakdown.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Amanda, tell us a little bit more about your workbook that offers a step-by-step roadmap to guide people who are not tech savvy about their idea.
Absolutely. So, I Have an App Idea is a workbook and a step-by-step guide to navigating non-technical founders or people who I like to call everyday innovators through the path of building an app, right? There's lots of tools and resources you find on YouTube, we Google, but we don't have a sequence to put them all together. I Have an App Idea solves for that. And so it helps people who have domain expertise, people like teachers, nonprofit leaders, insurance agents, doctors, lawyers, and gives them a pathway to producing a product. So it teaches them first how to build a business around their idea, then how to design that idea for their target audience, then how to pick the best development path for them, whether that's vibe coding or using AI or working in a more traditional manner, like working with a developer, and then how to get that app out to the world, how to deploy it, and then manage, maintain, and market your investment so that the right people find it, and you ultimately profit.
Amanda, what inspired you to help people reach their app goal despite not having the necessary background to do it?
Well, it was a series of experiences. So I've been working in the economic development space for over 15 years now. And that work involves doing tech-based economic development. And so what I like to say is that I go to cities and towns, in particular rural and remote regions, and I teach people in towns and municipalities how to build their own version of Silicon Valley, right? And while I was doing this work, I was noticing there was a ton of people with great ideas and great businesses, but they could not grow and scale those businesses because they didn't understand tech. Simultaneously, I was in the founder seat myself, and I had more experience in tech than most people, but I struggled to build my first app. My first app took me about 1.5 years and cost me around $40,000. But after I built this framework, my next app only took me around 2 months. And so, you know, the average non-technical founder loses as much as $50,000 when trying to build an app, and they spend about 2 years trying to do it. And so in our community in particular, we don't always have that money, and we certainly don't have that time to waste. It wasn't until I started getting letters from incarcerated people who said, hey, Amanda, I too have an app idea. I realized this is a bigger problem than, we know, like, everyday innovators don't have the access, but there's a lot of people who, if I would have provided them with this information sooner, I might have been able to change the trajectory of their lives. And so, this is just a pathway for us to participate in innovation and meet people where they are. There's so much talk about coding and STEM, and I think that's wonderful and great, and that all has a part in this, but we want to ensure that that person who's been working on that job for 20 years and understands the problems intimately is able to participate in the innovation economy as well.
That's good, Amanda. Tell us a little bit more about the apps that you've been able to create.
For sure. So one of the most popular apps we have is called Tip Off. It's the word guessing game for the culture. I'm sure you guys have all played Taboo before. It is a version of Taboo focused on Black culture. We have HBCU packs. We have cities like Atlanta and Chicago, Detroit, places that we like to call home.
Nice.
And so you could play, solo, or you could play with your peers from different locations around the world. I also had an app called Culture Crush that we just sunsetted, but it was very popular with Afro-Brazilians. It was at one point the #1 dating app for Afro-Brazilians. And so
nice.
That was a really exciting experience to see something that we built initially for kind of Black culture, but seeing, Black people in the diaspora embrace this and realize that this could be a really amazing tool for them.
That's fantastic. Tell us about some of the costly mistakes that people make when building products, apps.
Oh gosh, where to start with that? One, I think there's a fallacy in that building apps have to be expensive. I've built apps for as little as $300. And with vibe coding, which is the process of creating apps with AI and writing prompts and to create software, it is more affordable and accessible than ever to build apps. However, you still need a framework. I think it's the equivalent of like almost like having a toolbox, right? You could have the most expensive toolbox on the market, but if you don't understand, general contracting or how to renovate something, you still don't know what you're doing, right? And so it's important to invest in that education and better understand what that process is like. So one, I think people think that it has to be expensive. Two, I think that people think that just because they turn over a project to a developer or to a tool, that will handle it. You are still the entrepreneur. You are still at the helm of this project, and you need to be in control of what happens next, right? And so it's very important that you educate yourself and that you understand at every step of this process what you should anticipate and how you should be preparing yourself as a founder so that you can get the best output from that product.
All right, Amanda, tell us, how could we get your book?
Absolutely. So you can find the book everywhere online where books are sold: Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Bookshop. You can find me at Instagram, The Amanda Span, or on LinkedIn, Amanda Span. I'm happy to educate the next generation of app founders, and hopefully you'll join us, Brittany.
That's right. Hopefully. All right. So I have an app idea. Pick up that book. It's by Amanda Span. And Amanda, we just want to thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us here on The Breakdown.
For sure. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely, Amanda. All right, folks, if you want to represent the Black Star Network beyond the screen, head to shopblackstarnetwork.com, where you can find your official Black Star Network swag. And it doesn't stop there. When you shop blackstarnetwork.com, also supporting a growing collection of Black-owned businesses, all featured on the site. So let's keep our money circulating in our community by shopping blackstarnetwork.com. That's going to do it for us today on The Breakdown. Thank you for spending part of your day with us, and be sure to keep the conversation going online. We also want to hear from you. Don't forget, send us your questions, your story ideas. Let us know what's happening in your community. And don't forget, we have special coverage here on the Black Star Network that is in Chicago, where we hope that you will join us. Roland Martin Unfiltered will be streaming live from there tonight. Roland's live in Chicago for the homegoing celebration of Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. So tomorrow, there will not be a breakdown show. That's because we will be honoring the life of Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. with our special coverage. So be sure to stay connected to the Black Star Network for full coverage of Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr.'s funeral. That'll do it for us today on The Breakdown. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again on Monday.